Zine Part 3. If you can all go to Window, Workspace, and make sure we're on Typography and reset the typography. Go to File, Open, and select the Zine ACA 3. With it open, can you scroll down to the next page? And then what we want to do is place the 3 missing images into this document. Before we begin, though, if we go to our layers and make sure we have our images layer selected. Then go File, Place, and we'll select jacket number 4, making sure Replace Selected Item is turned off. And then draw a frame which the image will then go into. Next up, we're doing File, Place, but this time we're going to replace jacket 5 and 6 at the same time. Remember, if you hold down your Control key, you can select 2 images at once. And again, Replace Selected Item is turned off. So open. This time we're going to draw one frame and then simply draw the next frame immediately after. And that page is now complete. So we're going to scroll down to the next page, and we're going to put a large image across this page, a spread image. So we're still on our images layer. I'm going to do File, Place, and I'm going to select the guy image and do Open. I'm going to draw from the top bleed all the way down to the bottom until the frame extends past it, like so. So remember, if I show you the preview, this is what it's going to look like when it actually prints. So even though it extends past it, that's not an issue. It's about making sure we don't leave any gaps, because if I had done the frame just to the page, for example, so it all fitted, so I got the entire image in, obviously we're going to have this white area around the bottom, so we're extending it beyond that. Now, I like to keep things tidy, so I'm going to actually resize my frame to the bleed area. Remember, it snaps to the bleed, so that's all good. Now I want to resize the image within inside that frame. Remember, you can resize something within the frame independently, and the frame will crop any extra data off. So a way to select an image inside a frame is either to swap over to the direct selection tool and click it, and you can see the frame of the image is being shown. Or if you're on the selection tool, you can double click and it will select the image. But it is a wise idea to make sure you're on the right cursor when you're doing this, because double clicking, although it allows you to change the frame, or sorry, the size of the image, it can sometimes cause issues or elsewhere later on when you're adjusting settings. So make sure you're always on the right cursor when doing this. It just helps solve a lot of trouble. Right, I'm going to resize the image. I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to resize until Guy's feet are around the margin area. And I'm going to do the same for us head, so resize upwards. Remember to keep the Shift key pressed down when you do so. A little bit too far. There we go. So I'm going to double click my hand tool to fit the frame, or the spread to the image. And then what we're going to do now is place the text across here. So if we go to our layers, unlock our text, but lock our image layer and make sure we have our layers or our text layer selected. This time we're going to do File, Place, and select Guy Martin docx. Again, Replace Select Time is turned off. Now we get the loaded text icon. Remember, if you hold the Alt key down, you can just click, 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 etc. and all the text will come in. What I'm not bothered about, I pressed Escape to stop placing text, is this last frame of text. I'm not bothered about it. Remember, this is just a demo, so I'm not really bothered about the story not being fully shown. In the real world, your editor would say that you've got this amount of room to use, you'd have to end up cropping some of the story, and that's all there would be to it. Some of it would get wasted. But for today, I'm just using these first 3 frames. Now, the text is quite hard to read here, so what we're going to do is fill these frames with a background so the text is easier, and make that background transparent. So I'm going to select my first frame and make sure I'm on the direct selection tool, not the selection tool, not the direct selection tool. Select my first frame, and I'm going to make sure I have my fill selected. So if I expand this so you can see, so the fill selected, not the stroke, fill, and I'm going to go to my swatches and set the fill to white. So what we've done is filled the text frame with white. So obviously it's a lot easier to read. But the problem being is we now can't see the lovely picture behind. So I want to make that fill, just the fill, semi-transparent. Now there's more than one way of doing this. I'll show you the way we've already looked at before, is the effects window. When you open the effects windows, before we've been playing around with the effects here and doing drop shadows and stuff. But straight away here you can see there's an opacity setting. So if we change that, it changes the opacity of everything, of that object. But if we drill down, you can see stroke, fill and text. So if we just select the fill and change the opacity setting, there we go. I'm going to put it at 60%. It changed just the fill and the text stays perfectly black. And that's what I'm after. Right, I'm going to put that back to 100%, just because in the Adobe InDesign exams, they might not use this window. There is another way of doing transparency, and that's up the top here. So you see the FX is there, but there's also this transparency button down here. But before you change it, make sure this button is set to what you want to change. So it's on fill at the moment, and if we change that to roughly 60%-ish, you get the same effect. But the problem I find with this, let me go back to preview mode, is I find it quite hard to read text when it's so close to the edge of a transparency. It looks a bit messy. Okay, I find that quite off-putting. So we're just going to add a little effect to justify or to move the text away from those edges, and it's quite easy to do. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have my text frame selected. I'm going to right click it and go to text frame options. Remember, the right click does work. It got fill placeholder text we've been using before, but just above it, text frame options. And in here we've got this setting called insert spacing. Make sure the setting the link's turned on, and I'm just going to adjust it by 2 millimeters. And also, if you can't see it adjusting here, make sure your preview is turned on. Then I'm going to do OK. That's exactly what I'm after, moving off the edges to make it a little easier to read. Now we want to do the same thing to this one and this one. Now we already know how to make an object style, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go to Window, Styles, Object Style, and just simply click Create New Style. Then I'm going to rename that style, Fill and Set, or Fill Set, I know what it means, and just do OK. I'm not changing anything because it's going to pick up exactly what this was. So if we double click it again and have a look, you can see certain things have been already selected. So they've already been adjusted. They've taken it from this style we made. So what I'm going to do is select the next frame and adjust, or select the style. It automatically applies the style, which I'm very happy with. Next up, we're going to look at adding a text wrap round Guy's shoulder, helmet and back to his legs, so the text flows around this area. To make that workflow a little bit easier, I'm going to hide the text layer, ready to apply the text wrap. Right, the text wrap, make sure we select our frame, go to text wrap, and we already know we're going to do an advanced text wrap. So wrap around object shape. Now there's no object here for the computer to detect. There's objects everywhere, so there's no way it could detect that we want to go around Guy. So what we're going to do is manually do that. So as long as we have our wraparound object shape selected, go to our direct selection tool, and you should see these little nodes now have appeared, and that frame is pink rather than red. I will drag that node over to here, and we're going to drag the other node over to here. So actually, if we drag it to there, then we can show you what happens. Now if I go back to my layers palette and just turn on my text briefly, you can see how it's being affected by that change. Okay, so I'm going to turn the text back off, collapse that. Now what we need to do obviously is I'm going to make sure my direct selection still, is add more of these little node points in, and then we can rearrange this line as much as possible. The way to do that is to go to your pen tool. Remember to hold your cursor down on top of the tool to get the extra tools, and select add anchor point. Then we're going to add a load of anchor points in. Don't worry how many, just add enough. If there's not enough, we can add more later. If there's too many, you can always take them away. So I'm going to add a couple of extra ones down the bottom that aren't required, just so I can show you taking them away at the end. And then back to our direct selection tool and adjust the nodes as required. So click on them, move them across. Now if you haven't noticed, be careful when you're clicking that the cursor changes from a hand to the pointer. That way you're adjusting the nodes, not adjusting the picture itself. Actually that's a perfect amount of nodes. But if for example we wanted more, we can just select there, put an extra node on, make sure we click back onto the right tool and adjust the node. If we decide there's too many nodes, so for example if I had a load of nodes here that are surplus, we didn't actually need them and I want to be tidy, I can just delete them. So we go to delete anchor points and remove those ones. But if they're doing no harm, it's no real issue anyway. Now let's go back to our layers and turn back on our text. And you can see we have now got our clipping going around Guy and not just the frame itself. So if I click off and turn it to preview mode, you can see how it looks. Now remember, there's also the image looks very bad here. Remember, we can change that by going to View, Display Performance, High Quality. Now that just changes the display performance. It's not what it's going to print like. It just changes how we see it in the program. The reason you have that display performance is if you imagine a big magazine with hundreds and hundreds of images in, trying to scroll through it or quickly move through the document with very high quality images in or being displayed at a time can cause the program to slow to an absolute crawl. So to keep the speed up, by default it shows the images in a sort of rough and ready way, but that doesn't mean they're poor quality, and we'll examine that in a later video.